You're on the Couch Cade side with your host Kyle Delaney for CouchFire.co. And in this installment, I'd like to go over the Michael Bisping versus Chael Sonnen fight. Now, this fight took place at UFC on Fox, the second installment, January 28th. That was yesterday. And the thing is that the decision got both praise, got ridicule, got a little bit of everything. There's a lot of mixed reviews in regards to it, and you know, rightfully so. It was a very close fight, but there's a lot of aspects that go into this fight, and I want to break down every single aspect, or at least try and cover every single aspect fairly, down the middle, and without a biased opinion in this honest one. But I would like to just say before I start anything, I watched this fight over 5 times, and I am a Chael Sonnen fan, and I do greatly respect Michael Bisping. And I watched this fight plenty of times. I looked at the stats, and I watched the fight multiple times, and I will say that Chael Sonnen just barely won this fight. 29-28, and I think he won the first and the third. He just barely, I will say this, just barely, slightly, barely won the first round, and then he won the third, and Michael Bisping put on a clinic in the second round. So that's my honest opinion. Everybody sees fights differently, and the computers have their stats, and they do things differently, and everybody's different, okay? But that's how I see it, and there's no disrespect to either fighter. Okay, that's how I saw the fight, and I know people see it as Bisping won. Now, there's a couple of aspects that go into this one. First, okay, I'd like to say this, is that I did a breakdown and prediction video on this fight, and I did say Sonnen would just edge out Michael Bisping, because you know what? I really, Michael Bisping was a very good fighter, and people did not give him the credit that he deserved going into this fight. People said, oh, and these are the comments I got on the video that I had, is that, oh, you're a fool. Sonnen will dominate Michael Bisping. And that's the majority. And I know there's a lot of Bisping fans out there, and I know there's a lot of Sonnen fans out there. There's also a lot of Sonnen haters. There's also a lot of Bisping haters. But this is the thing, is that people, majority of people, not everybody, a majority of people said that Chael Sonnen would dominate Michael Bisping. That was the most mentality that I saw. I could be very wrong, but this is what I saw going around, is that everybody said, oh, Sonnen will dominate, it'll be easy, he'll put him on his back. And people underrated Michael Bisping. They overlooked his good grappling, his good wrestling, and that's what they thought. Chael Sonnen would walk in, and it would be a cakewalk for him, and that's completely false. Michael Bisping is a very good fighter who deserves a lot more credit in the middleweight division, a lot more credit as a mixed martial artist and as a fighter. So that was the problem. We set ourselves up. Not everybody, but people set themselves up for this. Then when it became a close fight, and it came down to the decision, a very close one, you know, and then Sonnen came out, and you have these people who are like, well, Chael Sonnen was supposed to dominate this fight. Now, Michael Bisping made it very interesting by making it close. Chael Sonnen didn't win the fight. Michael Bisping won the fight, and there was just a big divide on who won the fight. But I'll just say this, that we set ourselves up for this one. Not everybody, but people set themselves up for this one, is that saying that it was going to be a dominating fight. It wasn't. Okay? No, a lot of people overlook Michael Bisping's capabilities because he is a very good fighter, and he deserves the respect that he does deserve, very much so. Okay, so I just want to say that very quickly. Now, let's just go into it very quickly. I'd like to say the first round was very close, back and forth, and let's just the computer stats. Sonnen did outstrike Michael Bisping, and Sonnen did get 4 of 7 takedowns. Now, I will say is that, you know what, stats don't lie, but at the same time, fights are not fought just by the stats alone, okay? The fights are fought in the octagon as well. There's other things that can be applied to it, is that the power of shots that are landed, the damage that is done, who is pushing the pace in the fight. Now, here's what I saw. In the first round, Chael Sonnen pushed the pace. It was very back and forth the first round. There were strikes that were exchanged, but Chael Sonnen got 2 takedowns in the first round. And I think that is that's why I just think he just slightly got that first round. You know, Michael Bisping was very impressive throughout the entire fight with his takedown defense until the third round, and he still reversed it in the end. Okay, but Michael Bisping's grappling was, I'd say, very, very impressive last night. Unbelievable last night. So the first round, I'd say slightly, just slightly goes to Chael Sonnen. Second round was back and forth, and Michael Bisping did win that. He did land a lot of strikes, a lot of damaging strikes. He rattled Chael Sonnen's equilibrium, rattled his brain with some heavy strikes. But at the same time, even though Bisping, I think, won round 2, Chael Sonnen did draw blood on Michael Bisping in that fight with a very stiff jab, if I'm not mistaken. Then the third round was Chael Sonnen. There's no questions about that. And you know what? This one could go either way. But here's one thing I will say in regards to this, is that the person who scored this fight a 30-27 should not be a judge in MMA. That's absolutely appalling. It is unbelievable how someone could say that somebody won all 3 of those rounds. That is 100% false, and 29-28 should have most definitely been the score for this fight. Okay? And it could have gone either way. And I can understand how people could see it going either way, because you know what? Michael Bisping did not get dominated. He did not get dominated. and he was able to get up from the takedown attempts in the first 2 rounds. So I can understand how it can be viewed both ways, and I think Michael Bisping, once again, I will say, he deserves the respect. Okay, and once again, people overlooked that. A good majority of people overlooked it and said Chael Sonnen would dominate this fight. Now, a couple of aspects that I think can really go into this one is that, one, is that Chael Sonnen, I think Chael Sonnen walking around 220 is detrimental. You know, he did not look as fresh as he has in the past couple of fights. Walking around 220 and having to cut to 185 is a very big mistake. He did look tired. I think going into the future, he has to be able to cut at least from a lower weight, because I think his endurance was definitely low. In regards to Michael Bisping, you know what? There's not a lot you could say that was bad about Bisping's fight. He really brought it to Chael Sonnen. He did. He brought the fight to Chael Sonnen, even though Sonnen mostly dictated a majority of the pace in this fight. He brought it to Chael Sonnen. He stuck it right at him. So to say that Michael Bisping, you know, moves down in the top contender spot, that's 100% false. I think Michael Bisping is right up there with the top contenders. It's not like he was dominated. It's not like he was knocked out. And it's not like he lost every single round, except for the fool that thought that was 30-27. The judge that thought it was 30-27. Michael Bisping put forth a good performance. And you know what? It could have gone either way. I do think it was something, but it could have gone either way. And I think Michael Bisping is still right up there at top contender. Now, I know Chael gets the title shot against Anderson Silva, but I think next in line should most definitely be Michael Bisping. But is he willing to wait that long? No, he's going to have to do another fight. And it depends. I think the best fight should be for the next in line fight should be Michael Bisping versus Mark Munoz. Okay, I think that's a good fight to decide who gets the next shot. And I know Chael gets the next shot. He'll get, I mean, depending on who wins between Sonnen and Silva, the rematch, I think Michael Bisping and Munoz should decide who gets the next shot. So, but I'd just like to say that for all those people that think that it's Bisping's way back down at the bottom of the list, I think he's right back up there. That performance was unbelievable. Hats off to Michael Bisping. Also, what I'd like to say in regards to this is the antics, really. And I am a pro Sonnen fan. I'm a big Sonnen fan. You know, I do laugh at the things he says. I'm not a fan of some of the things he says. I respect him as a fighter and what he can do. And I don't think it was his most impressive performance, even though he won. But, you know, you win the fight, you just barely eke out a decision. Okay, just barely. Once again, I stress that. And instead of, you know, when all's said and done, when the fight's over, and Michael Bisping brought the fight to you and he gave you 3 tough rounds. He made you work for that win. Whether you got it or whether you deserved to win or not, okay, you go and you start talking about yourself. Okay, and I disagree with this. I am a Sonnen fan, but give respect to Michael Bisping. And you know what? You do it in the press conference, but that's too little too late, in my honest opinion. You know, give Michael Bisping the credit he deserves. You know, the guy shakes your hand after all the trash talk you guys are doing, and you talk about yourself and greatness, and like you're a good fighter, but, you know, it wasn't like you 100% dominated the guy. It was a tough fight. So flat out say it, you know, Michael Bisping, you know, you deserve the credit. You know, you put forth a good fight, and hats off to you. And you did it after by saying Michael Bisping could beat Anderson Silva, and he rattled my brain. He hit me sometimes. I didn't even know where I was. But that's too little too late. You know, you do say it, but, you know, you did it at the wrong time. It would have been much more effective if you did it after the fight. And I'm not a PR specialist, and I'm not a fighter, but that's just what I would have done, you know, because Michael Bisping really did do a great job. And that's just what I have to say in regards to that. And, you know, breaking down the fight, you know, I do think Sonnen won, but, you know, Michael Bisping put forth a great fight, and he does deserve the respect that he does deserve in that middleweight division. I think he doesn't move down. He stays right up. And, you know, that's the way it should be. Chael Sonnen gets the title shot. We'll see what happens with him and Anderson Silva, depending on injuries. God knows what's going to happen with, you know, injuries in regards to that fight. You know, Anderson Silva's had a bunch of injuries. And I think moving forward, you know, if they want to say Michael Bisping gets the shot after Sonnen, he's willing to wait, you know, I guess that's the case. But I think the best match would be Michael Bisping versus Mark Munoz, and I think the winner of that gets the next title shot. But I figure, I just wanted to break that one down, is that, you know, I know it didn't sit well with a lot of people, and it was a very close decision, and rightfully so. I do think Sonnen won that fight just barely, but, you know, I think that, you know, a lot of things need to be debunked about that fight, and it was a good fight. I thought it was a very entertaining fight. It was very back and forth. But to say that this is the one thing, you know, when it comes down to MMA, is that don't ever count anybody out. I think that's the one lesson that we could take from this, is that everybody was saying that Michael Bisping was going to be dominated by Chael Sonnen. Never count anybody out in this sport. That's the most beautiful thing about the sport, is that, you know, anything's possible. At any given time, you know, a fight could be over, or anything like that. Anything's possible. So never count anybody out. That's the lesson that can be taken from this, is that don't ever overlook somebody or undervalue somebody's capabilities, because you know what they did with Michael Bisping. And once again, hats off to Michael Bisping, hats off to Chael Sonnen. I thought they put on a good fight, but that's just what I took from the fight itself. So that's what I have for this edition of the Cage Side Couch. This is Kyle Delaney signing off. I'm out of here.